starting of the 1 year anniversary. And yeah, time flies. It's already a year.
I
Okay.
know.
Yeah.
I know.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Cheyenne's Forum. Today is January 20th, 2026. Here's my dear friend Tom. Tom, how are you? Welcome.
I'm fine. Thank you.
Yeah, you look great, Tom. Thank you so much for coming to our podcast. And before we start, I'd like to introduce Tom to our dear audience. Tom worked in FBI for 30 years, and he worked as assistant director of FBI for 5 years, and he's retired now. And thank you again so much, Tom. All right, so today it's a big day. It marks the 1 year anniversary of President Trump's return to the White House. It's a year officially. So, how do you view the Trump administration's work over the past year? It's a big question.
I think that he's been very ambitious to get much of the items that he wanted done,
Hmm.
get them accomplished. And he's been working at a very fast pace. He
Hmm.
has his cabinet members and other members of the administration
Hmm.
working at a very fast pace.
Hmm.
And I think he always has the fear that something's going to happen and derail his agenda if he doesn't get it done.
Yeah, that's a good
Especially
point.
looking at things like Minnesota and places like that, where
Mhm.
they're absolutely going to derail his policies if they can. And you have members of the House hoping that they can take back the leadership in the House uh, this coming summer, or I mean, this coming November.
Mhm.
And they've already said their immediate ambition is to impeach Trump. Back to that, like we were, in the first administration, impeach Trump, impeach Trump. And the stupidity of it actually
Mhm.
is that they need two-thirds of the US Senate to actually convict Trump if they
Mhm.
wanted to remove him. So if
Mhm.
the fact that they're so close to 50-50 or a little under 50-50 in the House,
Mhm.
nowhere near what they would need in the Senate. So it's just another stunt to
Mhm.
embarrass Trump, to distract him,
Mhm.
to make him have to concentrate on putting a defense together,
Mhm.
all of that. And it just shows how desperate and I think how stupid the Democrats are.
Right, right. So, two questions. First is, um, do you have your own understand about why these people hate Trump so much? Even he come back to the White House and doing good things for American people, still they hate him.
Yeah, they don't care about the good thing. What they care about is staying in power. And the more successful Trump is, the less likely they're going to be able to do anything, get back the White House or even the Congress in this generation.
Mm-hmm.
They may be out of business and out of power for a long time. So they
Mm-hmm.
have to do everything they can to derail Trump,
Mm-hmm.
make his policies be unsuccessful or do like they're doing, in Minneapolis, St. Paul. The rhetoric of the governor and the mayor is they don't care if he's successful or not. They need to have him out. So I think that's where the issue is. They want to derail Trump at any cost because they need to for the Democratic Party to survive. They
Mm-hmm.
cannot have a successful President Trump.
So they really do not care a bit about good for
No, no,
American people.
and
They
that's
just
what's being exposed if anybody's smart enough to see it. Now, my
Mhm.
question is, what's with our voters in these Democratic cities? They should have been seeing this now for years, for election after election, and
Mhm.
and still vote guys like him or Biden, vote them into the presidency, vote the congressmen and senators that are doing all this damage into Congress. Uh, it astounds me how unpatriotic they are, how selfish, and how self-centered that everything they're doing or attempting to do revolves around their ability to keep themselves in power. And if they're in power, they can steal money, they can rig the elections, they can do all of that.
Mhm.
the more powerful they are.
Right, right. Agree with you. And so you mentioned a very important question, which is why people still voting for them. That they are so obviously destroy American. They so obviously don't like the country, which they should, and they should serve the country.
Yeah.
So this made me think the possibility of our election actually may be being rigged in a big, big scale, meaning not only the federal level, the state level, meaning they do
Every level, the dog
right,
catcher level,
right,
because they might get somebody in at that level, and then a couple of years later they run for their state legislature, and then a couple of years later, run
right.
for Congress or the U.S. Senate or something like that. But one of the things that people underestimate is that the reason, when they talk about the Democrats wanted to flood the U.S. with illegal immigrants.
Mm-hmm,
Reason is everybody knew they're not going to vote in the presidential election. They may never get citizenship and be able to vote. But what
mm-hmm,
they didn't realize, or maybe some did, is that they're counted in the census. And the census determines how many congressmen, how many senators, how many seats they get when the
mm-hmm,
elections come up. And
mm-hmm,
that's what matters to them. So now you have the 2020 election and all of the illegals being counted in these states. So the
mm-hmm,
states get more members of Congress, more senators, more whatever.
mm-hmm.
And none of those people are going to vote. We know that.
Right.
But when they have those additional seats, then more Democrats can run for those seats and get in. And
Mm-hmm,
that's their whole idea. So right now, and when they're talking about the realignment of the districts,
mm-hmm,
it really matters because the more they call that gerrymandering,
mm-hmm.
where they adjust the districts in a way that benefit their own party.
Right.
And that's what they're trying to do is to have more Democrats in these gerrymandered districts
Mm-hmm,
uh, so that they can get Democrats elected into those seats.
mm-hmm. That's right. That's right. So, this is one way that the Democrats wants to keep themselves in power forever. This is one way to approach that. And the other way is actually they steal the election, meaning they actually do not need our votes anymore. They can make the votes. They can just um, make the outcomes. When that happens, our votes doesn't matter. It really
Right.
doesn't matter. It's just a game. And if we lost the election integrity, we basically lost this country, which I see this is just happening. And so this is another topic I like to just develop a little bit more when uh, with the other question about Minnesota situation right now. And for the 1 year anniversary, what is the first three things that you think Trump administration have done for good for 1 year? Can you just name three things that you think is very
Well, I
important?
think his big beautiful bill is one of them. All
Uh,
those tax cuts and benefits are going to kick in this year when people do their taxes.
uh-huh.
So in 2026, when they submit the taxes for 2025,
Mhm,
that's where they're going to see the benefit of all that. And a lot of people take that for granted, but the tax rates, the Social Security,
mhm,
no tax on Social Security income,
mhm,
things like that are going to kick in and benefit a lot of people. Now,
mhm,
already that's one thing.
mhm.
The other thing is that Trump early on during Biden administration, after he was out of power, realized that their policies going against the energy industry, drilling and processing fuel, all of that, was going to make transportation costs in the U.S. sky high,
Right.
diesel fuel sky high,
Mhm,
so that in order to plow the fields, very expensive. In order to collect all of the products of the agriculture and send it by truck or rail to a processing place, very more expensive. So with gasoline going up $3, $4, $5 a gallon when it
mhm,
used to be under $2 a gallon, that's exactly going to hit the consumer, and
Mhm.
it's one of the most significant causes of inflation. And
Mhm.
so that's so the process of getting the cost of fuel down as he's done. Now the average in the country is under $3 a gallon and continuing to get better. The ability to do that is going to make all the goods across the country cheaper.
Right.
When you go to the grocery store, when you go to the gas station, all of those things will be much easier to afford for the average American.
Mhm.
So I think those are big accomplishments, but they don't get realized immediately. It's going to take a while. It took 4 years to really derail the economy,
Mhm.
and it's going to take usually it would take longer to get it back. I
Mhm.
don't think it'll take longer, but it is taking time.
Right, right. Yeah, that's a very important thing, and everybody can feel that, which is like more important to their daily life. And what's the third one? The peacemaker thing? Do you think it's a his achievement?
Well, yeah, he's gotten peace in what, 6 or 7 countries that were at war with each other and have an indirect effect on the rest of the world. And to continue those policies.
Mhm.
And I think, some of the things we're going to have to wait and see. Now, today we were waiting in case the Supreme Court issued the decision on tariffs. That's
Right.
a huge issue. The
Hmm.
country, another thing a lot of people don't realize, we didn't have income tax. I think the first 100 years of the country, we had tariffs.
Exactly.
That's how we made money in this country. The economy made money through tariffs. Then we had the income tax passed, and the tariffs are only used every now and then as some form of punishment of a particular country,
Mhm.
as opposed to a general policy to keep the country funded.
Mhm.
And now what you've had under Trump with the tariffs he's put in effect is that that's led to a tremendous amount of income for the U.S.
Oh yeah.
And the threat of the tariffs, the secondary benefit of tariffs isn't just cash in the bank for the United States or a reduction in the deficit, but the persuasion of country or companies to relocate their manufacturing to the United States, get
Hmm.
out of China, get out of Mexico, get out of wherever they're at, because if they come to the U.S. and make their stuff, they'll beat the tariffs. They won't be tariffed,
Right.
and it benefits U.S. workers. Then U.S. workers get the jobs to make whatever cars
Right.
or other goods that they're manufacturing is all tremendous for the U.S. economy.
Right.
And it's either the tariffs themselves or the threat of tariff that's leading to that.
Mm-hmm.
So you've
Right.
seen several companies that were in the process of setting up new auto plants in Mexico or other manufacturing facilities, close them down and come back to the US.
Yeah.
And that's an enormous benefit. And I think a lot of people haven't paid as much attention to that as well.
Right, right. So I just don't understand why people against these tariffs policy. It's all benefit to the US. Why these people against it? And
Because
oh,
they're being led by the nose with, stupid people for the sake of power, intimidating people like that, oh, Trump's ruining the economy, and oh, it's a dictatorship, and oh, he's Hitler, oh, the ICE and law enforcement or the Gestapo, all of those things that they're putting in the brains, and I have to say feeble brains.
mhm,
If they believe that and then vote accordingly, it's bad for the country. But
yeah,
you know, that's
just like
democracy.
yeah, just like you mentioned before that the media is our enemy right now. I mean, mainstream media. They just put this narrative repeatedly, again and again, day by day, year by year to people's mind.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah,
I
talk about
remember when President Trump, candidate Trump in 2016, holding rallies,
Mhm.
was saying that the media is our enemy.
Yeah.
Oh, the country went berserk. How can we rely on a free press, and that's what our country's about, and the First Amendment and all that.
Hmm.
But what Trump was realizing was not if they're lying. Our
Hmm.
country depends on an informed public, That,
Right.
the founders knew that 250 years ago
Right.
and knew that the people, we needed to have a free press, but an honest press. And the
Right.
people had to be told the truth about what's happening. And now what we've seen, for a couple decades now, people don't get the truth from the media. They get a narrative of what benefits one party or the other.
Mm-hmm.
And, in the case right now, it's the Democratic Party using the media as their number one ally to
Mm-hmm.
keep people ignorant of not knowing what's really happening or how to fight what's happening.
Right. Right. That's true. So basically, if someone wants to destroy American, they don't need to use the weapon. They
No,
don't need it. They don't need
no,
the nuclear weapon. They need one, control the media. Second, control the election with the fake election, wrecked election, and then it's done.
that's
They
right.
overcome this country. So
Absolutely right.
yeah, that's horrible. And then the good thing is more and more people are waking up right now. They see the difference and they see the narrative. It's not reality. I think that the processing is not easy for the people who get used to the mainstream media, but eventually they will see the reality. They will actually, well, at least some of them will adjust their opinion. Yeah. And then the second thing is about Davos. I know today President Trump is on the way to Davos. And interestingly, 2 days ago, the WEF co-chair, BlackRock CEO Larry, acknowledged that the global elites have lost public trust and now face the uncomfortable reality in an age of the deep institutional mistrust. So they realize something is wrong. People are awakened. He said the world now places far less trust in us to help shape what comes next. Um, so it is to me that the Davos or WEF appearly to have recognized that its own vulnerabilities and it's making its adjustment. They are very smart. They know it and then they will adjust it uh, accordingly. But on the other hand, Canada has suddenly moved closer to Beijing in a way that has surprised many people, and lots of Canadians are not happy about this move. And UK has also suddenly hand over a very critical overseas base to Mauritius, an Africa country. So, how do we interrupt this development?
I think I think the best idea is to have the US be the strongest economy it can be. And whatever it takes to do that, tariffs or what, but to make jobs and manufacturing and research and development and all of those critical things for the economy to have that back in the US under US control is a big, huge thing. And then what happens is the other countries get
Mhm.
in line because that's what they want. So you saw, when Trump first was implementing tariffs, many of these countries just immediately said, okay, we're gonna switch our manufacturing to the US.
Mhm.
We're not even going to fight this. So I think that's part of it is, you know, for Canada to align with China,
Mhm.
you know, it kind of plays into Trump's argument of why we need Greenland,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
the Chinese and the Russians want to take over the Arctic and the sea lanes that are becoming more usable as global warming happens.
Mhm.
And China is one of the first ones in line, and
Mhm.
including they've been manufacturing an enormous number of ice breakers to keep those sea lanes open.
Right.
So Canada may be just trying to stay on China's good side and pretend like they're going to be a great ally,
Mhm.
but it does show then the vulnerability of what happens to Greenland if China takes over Greenland and takes over being able to put more bases at the Arctic Circle, open up more sea lanes
Mhm.
in the Arctic Ocean, all of that.
Mhm.
So in some ways, it plays more into Trump's hands that Greenland, it's absolutely necessary for the safety of Canada, the
Mhm.
safety of all these European
Mhm.
countries that are complaining and what they're going to do. And they're going to send 5 troops or 3 troops or 7 troops to Greenland to save them from the mighty US.
Mhm.
And the stupid part of that is who is going to protect them
Mhm.
from China and Russia? It's the United States.
Mhm. Mhm.
So really, if they wanted, and they may be just bluffing too, with Trump in the art of the deal, is that Trump is exposing how selfish they are. He's also exposing how stupid they are. Why
Mhm.
Europe has become so weak from
Mhm.
their own policies, their
Right.
own globalism, and all of that. And it's backfired on them, which
Mhm.
has made them more dependent on the US.
Right.
So Greenland, uh, controlled by Denmark right now,
Mhm.
is a NATO country.
Right.
So if Russia or China attack, who's going to protect them? NATO. Well, who's NATO? The United States.
Right. Yeah.
So that's what's stupid about that is what they ought to be doing right now is saying, here, US, we're going to help you uh, pay Denmark what it's worth, whatever, do what you have to do. But we know that whatever bases you create
Mhm.
in Greenland and protecting the waterways
Mhm.
north of Greenland and the Arctic is absolutely necessary for European safety,
Sure.
European security.
Right.
So they should be recognizing that. And I think Trump is looking at this like, what's the matter with you people?
Mhm.
I'm begging the US for support, and then what? Then you
Mhm.
stand in our way to try to build the system. Trump is referring to it as the Golden Dome,
Right.
setting up a satellite system and a warning system in Greenland to protect them.
Right.
Now, I saw on the map the other day that the shortest distance, the most direct straight line from Moscow to Washington goes over Greenland.
Right.
And the distance of Washington to the center of Greenland is the same as Moscow to the center of Greenland.
In the middle, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So really, what Trump is doing is basically trying to give them time to
Mhm.
figure it out.
Mhm.
Uh, and that may take a lot because they're not real bright. And if you look at what Europe, the damage they've done to themselves is
Mhm.
enormous. They haven't hurt Russia or China or anybody else.
Mhm.
Strongest economic powerhouse was Germany. And
Mhm.
they shut down their power plants and, oh, we're going to build windmills and all that. And now they're extremely weak. And they
Mhm.
have almost no manufacturing
Mhm.
in Germany or in the other parts of Europe that need it.
Well, so you just mentioned two, I think it's a very important thing. Thank you. First is Denmark. Greenland actually belongs to Denmark. Denmark needs NATO to protect them, and NATO actually need US to protect them.
Yeah.
So why US protect Greenland directly? Why we need a Denmark and then NATO? Why just US take over
Well,
Greenland?
Greenland itself is not a NATO country, but Denmark is. So,
Denmark, yeah, right.
yeah.
So,
So Greenland, that would be like Puerto Rico joining NATO or somebody else. You've got to be a nation state to join it
right, right.
and then pay money for it.
Right. And the other thing is you mentioned that Europe, some of Europe countries not that smart from seeing what they are doing and the outcomes. Do you think it's another possibility that it's not something about smart or not, is they have another agenda? The agenda is not for the good of Europe, it's for their organization or institute or a group of people. Is that possible, a possibility there?
Probably, yeah. Selfish possibility that they're trying to protect themselves, but they're doing a poor job of it.
Right.
So then what ends up happening is that they're bluffing and, spouting off, like you just saw in the last couple of weeks,
Mhm.
where different NATO countries are going to help Greenland. So each of the countries was saying, we're going to send troops to defend Greenland from the United States. and France, and other countries, they were talking about 5 to 10 troops each country. So I think altogether it was going to be about 50, 50 troops.
35 people there.
Yeah. Our first our first military flight into Greenland will have twice that many on it. So, so again, it's Europe not really knowing how weak they really are.
Yeah, so what do you think the outcome will be? I'm glad that you mentioned about the Greenland and give the analyst about the Greenland. So what do you think? The Greenland
I think
event?
eventually they're going to give in
Okay.
and let the US have Greenland. And basically, it would be a smart thing to do. What they ought to be saying is, your problem now. We're done with, you take care of, you're protecting all of Europe anyway. You're
Hmm.
the number one NATO country anyway. So here, you take, Denmark's not going to be able to defend Greenland.
Uh-huh.
None of these other countries are going to be able to. So, okay, US, you asked for it, you got it.
Okay, that's good. And also, we talk about Russia. Russia actually agree with Trump to take over the Greenland,
Yeah.
but people keep saying that there's a threat from China and Russia. So if Russia agree with Trump, will Russia still consider as a threat to Greenland?
Well, that debate's gone on for decades,
Uh-huh.
of the real relationship between Russia and China. And for years, they publicly, when they were communist and China was communist, they would say, well, we're brothers in communism and socialism and all of that. But through espionage, and the FBI had the number one informant in the Kremlin,
Mm-hmm.
close to the head of, Brezhnev and the heads of the Russian government. And the Russia, when Nixon was considering going to China, a lot of people were saying, "Oh, don't do it," and you're going to start a war with Russia and China and each other. And what happened is that the number one U.S. spy in Moscow was
Mm-hmm.
telling Nixon that you should go
Mm-hmm.
because Russia's bluffing. You should go, and he
Mm-hmm.
did. He went to China.
Mm-hmm.
So at the time, China and Russia were not as close as they said. Oh, we're both communist and we're brothers in ideology and all that, but they're competing with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happened then. That's
Mm-hmm.
what led Nixon to go ahead and go to China.
Right. So if that's the case, and I believe this is the true from the history, and then American people already know that China and Russia are not as old friends as
Right,
brothers.
right.
Um, so if our policies still put China and Russia together, considered as a threat to U.S., do you think it's right?
I don't think that's really what's happening. I don't think China and Russia are looking at the US as being an obstruction to them directly,
Hmm.
even if we are. I think they're both now looking at how powerful the US is and trying to get on the good side for the
Hmm.
sake of their economies, for the sake of, many issues, military issues.
Hmm.
So I'm not sure. And I
Right.
think the other issue right now, in Iran, all of those thousands of people in the street, I think that whole movement in the last couple of weeks or months
Hmm.
is the result of CIA agitating the locals to fight the regime, to fight the mullahs and try to convince them that what happened under Obama or any other previous presidents is not going to happen with Trump. Get
Mm-mm.
this thing started, cause as much disturbance as you can with the regime, and make it clear to the demonstrators and the rioters on the street, but more importantly to the Ayatollah, the US is backing them all the way,
Mhm.
and they better go ahead with their plans to move to Moscow or move out, go somewhere else.
Mhm. Just try to push them out
Right.
without a weapon, without a wall. So yeah, what do you think the
Or
outcome will?
with a war, and that may come.
Uh-huh. Yeah, right, right. So what do you think the outcome of Iran? They're gonna have a regime change?
I think so. I think the regime is going to fall and
Hmm.
the Ayatollah and the other leaders are going to flee for their lives.
Yeah. So maybe pretty soon, maybe next week when we
You know,
have,
there's so many things different too than in the past.
right.
Iran shuts down all internet traffic in the country, and yet we're getting information back and forth because of Starlink.
Hmm.
So now these countries, once again, you know, thank you, Elon Musk, but US technology is helping the local people defeat the regime in the long run. And I
Right.
think at some point, when they realize they can't shut down the internet, they can't kill every demonstrator, hundreds of thousands of people in the street,
Hmm.
then the next smart thing to do is fly to Moscow or somewhere safe.
Hmm. Right. Right. What do you think about the real, because we just mentioned the real relationship between China and Russia. What do you think about the real relationship between China and Iran?
Well, China's relationships is going to be based on what it always is, who can help them, who can support their economy, who can support their goals. And I think that you know, and I think China is suspicious of the Ayatollah and the mullahs anyway. So it's not, I don't think they're as close. And this is where espionage, accurate espionage comes into play.
Hmm.
What is Washington being told by the CIA and the people the CIA has on the ground in Iran or
Hmm.
in China? What are they being told about the real relationship?
Hmm. Right. Right.
And you know, will the Iranian officials stay and stick it out?
Right.
And I think what they're counting on is not this time.
Right. Right. And some people said that China is the biggest supporter to Iran. And some people said, no, Russia is the biggest support of Iran. What do you think? Who is more like close to Iran, meaning give more help to Iran?
Good question. Could be either one or both.
Hmm. Hmm.
But I think in the long run, it's going to be who can sustain the Iranian economy for the longer period. And I'm not sure that China's in a position logistically to provide that kind of support. They can undermine the regime just like we are,
Hmm.
use their spies, our spies, Russian spies, go in there, cause agitation, cause riots, cause all of that,
Hmm.
much like we have in the US, with people are undermining US law and authority by getting the agitators to rise up against ICE and the government. And
Hmm.
it's kind of similar, you know, that's the trade craft of the spy industry,
Hmm.
is to
Spy industry.
undermine the government,
Hmm.
line up people that are against the government, get them to do something.
Right.
And I think we're doing that to Iran.
Right.
And I think that, you know, some of these countries are doing that to us right now.
Right. Yeah. You know, Tom, the reason I'm asking more question regarding China is I realized that recently in the international matters, especially geographic matters, I see more Chinese or China play some roles, not maybe not big roles, maybe not huge roles, I don't know, but some roles, say Venezuela. China has a strong tie with Venezuela, and then Iran, strong ties with Iran, and then Canada sign agreement, a big agreement with Beijing. So it seems like China is very active around the Americans, yeah, policy, international policy environment. So what do you think?
But we'll see. I think that the U.S. actions in Venezuela, taking out Maduro and working with their vice president, who is now the president.
Right.
And I think that that person had more to do with Maduro being taken out than anything else.
Ah.
And and so
Mhm.
now Venezuelan oil is cut off from Cuba,
Mhm.
China, Iran, all these countries that depended on it and thought it would last forever. It's
Mhm.
not. And now the U.S. is in a position, or the current government of Venezuela, which is right now a proxy of the U.S.,
Mhm,
they're in the position of strength when it comes to Venezuelan oil and resources from that country.
mhm,
And
mhm.
once again, I think in a way, the U.S. has taken over.
Right. And then Canada. Actually, I still remember President Trump said Canada will be the another state of the United States. So some Canada people are very happy, some are not. What do you
Well, the
think?
Western Canadian provinces, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and British Columbia,
Mhm.
are very much, they realize that they're not being properly taken care of
Right.
by Ottawa, the capital. And
Hmm.
that's why they're having internal votes to secede from Canada and join the US. So
Right.
the fact that they're talking about it and thinking about it
Uh-huh.
is, has got to scare the Canadian main government
Uh-huh.
because they're not treating their Western provinces very well.
Right. Right. So if that happened, let's just think about that. If that happened, Canada become a one part of United States and Greenland become United States. So how that will change the whole world? What do you think?
Well, I think it would change it a lot because it would make the rest of the world realizes who they need to get along with, which would be the U.S. and
Hmm.
what the U.S. is capable of with that kind of
Hmm.
control over those territories.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, and also thank you. This
Don't
is
forget, in Canada, Alberta is their number one producer of
yeah,
oil,
right.
and they pretty much are voting to leave Canada. Now,
Right.
whether that happens or not, but the mere fact that that political support is not going to go to Ottawa, it's going to stay within or
Hmm.
within the three western provinces of Canada,
Hmm.
who are going to be more closely aligned with the United States.
Hmm.
I think the threat of that is enough to have Canada in Ottawa have them think twice about what moves they make, and
Right.
especially the idea of aligning with China, in
Right.
world affairs.
Yeah,
I mean,
personally, I really don't understand why they are just aligning with China because and why? You're the biggest neighbor of United States, and then you have a long history together. You're just like a brother or
I think
cousin.
that, yeah, I think they're bluffing and they're trying to intimidate Trump. And I think that the government in Canada hasn't learned what Trump is capable of. So
Well,
if they keep poking the US in the eye, they may come to regret that. Now, I don't think those provinces are going to become US territories, but they're certainly going to change the politics within Canada of
mhm,
the resources that are going from those provinces
mhm,
to Ottawa and
mhm.
not back to their provinces. And that's what they're talking about. They put all that money into the Canadian economy and they don't get much back.
Right, right. So that's why they want to independent from Canada. I think
Yeah.
it's the main reason. But if the Alberta got independent, Canada will lost a lot income at least. So
Yeah,
I
of
don't know
course.
how they can
Of
play. Yeah.
course.
Yeah. So another question, the last question of today is about the Minnesota situation right now. So the violation and targeting ICE continued to occur in Minnesota. Do you believe that the situation will be out of control, or what are we going to do?
No,
They
I think that the Trump administration is going to tighten the reins on what's going on there, and I think that the bridge too far for the protesters and agitators was going into that church 2 days ago on Sunday,
right.
and I think that that was too far. That was too much because that violates a huge U.S. federal law. Every one of those people that went in there and threatened the parishioners of that church,
Mm-hmm.
they could be looking at 10 years in prison. And I
Hey,
think right now what they're talking about is immediately the FBI and ICE and Homeland Security dispatched additional agents to that church in St.
right.
Paul and
Hmm.
they are going all out to identify and charge the individuals that stormed that church and bring them to trial.
That's
And I
good.
think that much of the much of the agitation will stop because right now,
Hmm.
because they were indoors, they didn't have the masks on that they've been wearing outside where it's, 10 below zero.
Hmm.
So in a way, it should be much easier to identify the actual individuals that went in there and violated several US federal laws, not local protest laws or St. Paul or Minnesota law, the United States law.
Like what, for example?
Like, for example, it's against the law to go into church and stop people from protesting. So
So,
just going in there and doing that
mhm.
is federal law, major violation.
Oh, okay.
Violation of the people that went in there, freedom of speech and freedom of worship. So they violated many aspects of the First Amendment
Mhm.
against the people in that church.
Right.
And I think this time the Department of Justice and the U.S. federal government is not going to put up with it. If they
Mm-mm.
can, once they identify these people, then they're going to start uh,
To
getting
Iraq.
getting them indicted by the grand jury.
Right. And Don Lemon, who was so his what's a joke is, and he is in the church.
Yep,
So he should be in the jail.
he
And
might
he
be. We'll see. We'll see what
yeah.
happens to Lemon.
Yeah. So the other question some people just asking is that if these people are not get into the church but stay out in the church to protest, this is fine, right?
Well, I don't know how far out they'd have to be. If they're on the church property and they're threatening the people coming and going from the church who
Hmm.
want to worship, it could still be a violation without going in.
Okay. Okay. And yeah, it seems like more and more people just went to Minnesota or Minneapolis to against ICE. And they put the ICE name, the agent's name, home address, even telephone number to track them.
Right.
Is this legal? This is not legal, right? I
Not
don't.
really, but I think what you're seeing is that because so little has happened against any of the agitators or rioters or protesters,
Right.
the US government has given them so much leeway. The old expression, give them enough rope to hang themselves. And I think that's what's happening is the government has been the appearance of being very lenient with
Yeah.
them. And then they push it and push it and push it further. And I
Hmm.
think now this going into that church was probably way too much.
Okay, it's like they put themselves into some trouble. Just give
Right.
them time
Mm,
and space and let them do,
mm,
right? So it's
right.
a strategy.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay, good, good. This is a good news. Thank you so much. I'll definitely detail this information because people like to know that. You heard lots of people say, why government don't do anything? Why DOJ, FBI don't arrest these people? Just do it. Maybe just give them a little bit of weight and give them show time. Yeah.
Well,
Eh,
ICE has been, they've been arresting the protesters that come out and throw water bottles and
uh-huh.
other debris at the ICE agents.
Right.
You see, many of them have been dragged off and placed under arrest. But
Not
I think
enough.
well, not enough, and not this time. I think this time you would have more people supporting the government in
Right.
arresting them,
Right. Right.
recognizing no, we don't want them going into our churches and
Right.
threatening us. That's a key right of the American people,
Yeah.
freedom of worship.
This is a bottom line. And last thing about the decision today at Supreme Court about tariffs. What's your, yeah, what do you think?
Well, they didn't decide yet, so we'll see.
Okay, it seems like that. Do you very positive for them to agree with Trump?
I don't know. I think everybody's really not sure which way they're going to go with this. That they could go with Trump If they go with Trump, I mean, against Trump and outlying tariffs,
Hmm.
I would be surprised because that was a huge mechanism for a couple hundred years of the U.S. supporting itself through
Right,
tariffs. So
right.
I think that if they did go against Trump and outlaw the tariffs, it would cause so much chaos,
Oh
so
yeah.
much.
Oh, yeah.
I think at that point, Trump better just go home and play golf if they can't use tariffs.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Tom. So wonderful. I'll translate that into Chinese later. And what do you think is important for us to at least to know for this past week? Do you have anything wants to say?
No, I think the idea that hopefully the public attitude about the protest, about ICE, is turning, and especially now that they realize supposedly subpoenas have been issued to members of the governor's administration, if not the governor. And so I think that's what we're kind of waiting to see, that the governor and the mayor, Mayor Fry, have gotten away with way too much. The theft of the billions of dollars is way too much. The rioting against U.S. federal law enforcement has gone way over the edge. So I think maybe we're starting to see where Trump, by holding off and not sending in the military right away and not doing that, has in a way he's sacrificed ICE agents to take abuse, to
Right.
take a beating in the street. But on the other way, I think he's trying to make sure the rest of the country realizes
Right.
that when he finally acts, it was absolutely a last resort, that he has to.
Right.
And you have the mayors of all these other cities watching. So you
Mhm.
have Chicago and Los Angeles and New
Also,
York and some of these places. They're waiting to see how
mhm,
tough Trump gets with the whole situation.
mhm. So
So
we'll see.
I think we're all waiting to see
Yeah.
uh, how much patience does Trump have to put up with this?
Right.
And how much patience do the American people? And then the other hand is that the clock is ticking coming up on the midterms.
Hmm.
I think that this kind of reminds me in 1968, when I was a junior in high school,
Hmm.
you had the riots in the street, mainly about Vietnam at the time. And
Hmm.
then you had part of the protest group splintered into the Weather Underground and became violent.
Hmm.
And then all of a sudden, the main body of the American public said, we want law and order. And
Hmm.
that's what led to, at the time, Humphrey getting, the Democratic nomination. Johnson backed out of it. And then Nixon gets elected, campaigning to reinstall law and order.
Um,
I think that's what, in a way, Trump might be looking at that strategy and seeing that that might be what we need now. As I said, give these guys enough rope to hang themselves, to
right.
convince the American people enough is enough. We want law and order, and we're gonna make sure we get it.
Wow,
So
great.
I think that may be going on behind the scenes when Trump is trying to decide the Insurrection Act and whether to send in U.S. military.
Hmm. Well, thank you so much for the history lesson, which is very important and help us to understand the current situation. Yeah. Thank you so much, Tom.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Let me see. I forgot to see that. Do we have any feedback and the people just saying hi to? Hold on one second. Okay. Yeah. Joseph say thank you, Tom. Thank you for discussing all this. Thank you, Tom. Thank you. All
Well,
right.
thank you for watching and paying attention.
Sure, of course. Thank you. And I'll translate that into Chinese and I'll see you next week. And maybe at that time we have some big development. At
Yeah,
least
we might.
what's the decision from the Supreme Court of the
Right.
tariff. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. Thank you, Tom. I'll see you next week.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.